the Adam Clack Football Academy.
It's all about the ball. Yeah. Tonight, we find a way.
And they knocked
A-plus content.
County
Authentic
to be the
stories.
7A champs in
Actionable
Georgia
takeaways.
We're going to attack them like they've never been attacked.
We are the Adam Clack Football Academy. So, Coach, we're sitting here. We just got finished having a great interview with Coach Stromie, and just want to get your thoughts on the takeaways from some of the things that we heard and what our listeners out here about to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, what you're going to hear is, a coach's journey. Coach Stromie didn't necessarily set out to be a full-time football coach. He was, just a freshman coach who was coaching wrestling. And then just how he at every stop, found ways to add value to the coaching staff, whether it be the way he supported the head coach or as a freshman coach supported the varsity program, to when he became an assistant coach, how he was willing to and sought out so many different roles to gain experience. I think a lot of times assistant coaches kind of pigeonhole themselves and think, "Oh no, I'm this. I'm a receivers coach, and that's what I'm an expert in." Coach Stromie had this, this kind of thirst for knowledge that I think is so powerful for an assistant coach to become a well-rounded coach, which then in turn allows him to add even more value to the staff. And just a cool little story arc of his, where he went from freshman, passive freshman coach to the assistant head coach. And honestly, I don't know of a better way to say it. I wish there was a more powerful way to say it. My right-hand man. He was truly invaluable to me in the way that he was able to complement kind of my strengths and weaknesses, and we just were able to take our relationship and help bring a staff together and disseminate a plan, a philosophy, a vision, all the way down to the studs of this program.
Yeah, I was really impressed with his humility, how open he is to feedback. But again, when you talk about complimentary football, you guys were complimentary coaches, and I think for coaches out there, it's really important that they've got someone like that they can that they can rely on, that they know that are going to filter some things that that can't quite bubble up to them, but handle it in a way that would be handled almost how you would handle it.
Right.
So I'm really excited that we got a chance to sit down with them. It was a fun interview. Coaches, hope you enjoy it. Here's our interview with Coach Stromie.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, coaches? This is Tad Lowe with the Adam Clack Football Academy, and we're here today, episode 2. We are in the heart of the field house at Milton. Next to me, I've got the man, Adam Clack again, and we've got a very special guest today, Coach Steven Stromie, who is currently right now working with his team, trying to get another state championship here at Milton. So thank you for taking the time. I know you're really busy, and I just want to follow up from our conversation that we had last week, talking about your career, and you mentioned the importance of relationships. You mentioned Dennis Stromie, and of course you mentioned Steven Stromie. So Steven, I want to kick it off to you. I want to tell us your story. How did you get involved in football, and ultimately how did you end up meeting Coach Adam Clack?
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me. It's been a journey, man. I'll tell you, if you'd asked me 20 years ago that I was going to be, if I was going to be coaching football as opposed to another sport, I probably would have laughed in your face. So I grew up, wrestling was my whole background. My father was my head wrestling coach. He was a longtime wrestling coach at Parkview. And so that was my whole aspiration coming out of college, was I wanted to go coach with my dad, take over his wrestling program at West Forsyth. And that's kind of where my path started. And I remember my senior year at college, my dad told me, "Hey, man, I got this guy. You're gonna love him. His name's Adam Clack." And being a senior in college, I have no idea. But my first year teaching at West Forsyth, we actually were teaching right across the hall from each other, and just naturally, the relationship grew. We were very close. just very interested in sports, very history nerds. Just a lot of things in common. We just kind of hit it off, and our relationship kind of started in really the wrestling arena, and AC is the one that actually got me out to coach freshman football. And so I'm coaching freshman football for a couple years, and we'd have the games on Friday, and I'd go hang out at his house afterwards. And year after year, we start watching more film. We're staying up late. We're talking about X's and O's. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like, man, like I'd really like to get help. I'd like to help you out on the varsity level. About the same year, I think he was the OC at West. I started coaching offensive line. I was assistant O-line coach. And again, our football relationship at that point kind of grew from there. And then it got to the point where I was so invested and really believed in what we were trying to do with the football program that I decided I'm actually going to have to take a step back from wrestling, which, the people in the wrestling community I thought were about to excommunicate me from the wrestling community because it's such a close-knit family. But yeah, man, it's one of those things that, I really truly believed that we were having such a good impact and we were doing really good things. That I decided, I want to go all in on football and take a step back from wrestling. And then at the same year that I decided to do that was the year that he was named the head coach at Milton. So, very, very unique path just because, like I said at the beginning, if you had told me I was going to be coaching football instead of wrestling, like there's no way. Yeah. There's no way that would have happened, and here we are.
Adam, tell me, I know that you had wrestling in your background. But what was it about Stromie that kind of stood out that said, man, I want this guy part of my team?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to sit and meet with Stromie for too long to just be, captured by his just infectiousness. I mean, he's always, just excited to learn and do different things. And, like he's talking about those nights that we would come home after the game and, it's after a game. I can't sleep after a game. I mean, we'd be up till 4 a.m, watching film, talking about things. And I could just kind of see, like, how excited he was getting with it. And again, our relationship just organically grew from, co-teachers together to assistant coaches together to, genuine, really, really good friends. So as we worked together, we really built a partnership. Mm-hmm. We complement each other in so many ways. Yeah, sure. I see myself as more of a kind of a strategist, and I'm a big kind of more of the big idea, kind of put things on a whiteboard mm-hmm. and see how it fits together. And then, man, Stromie is just such a tactician. He can come in and say, okay, if we organize it like this, this, and this, and it even down to our lesson plans. We're working together, teaching and stuff. So that relationship built there, and then just his hunger to always, like, he just has a knack for, if he sees a problem, I mean, no matter how small. I mean, it could be, hey, the laundry's not getting done right, or hey, we need to find a better way to organize this practice and this drill. Like, he was the guy that would step in and be like, let me help you with that. Mm-hmm. And that's so valuable, down to just the way he is with people and the connections that he makes. And I was like, it doesn't matter what he coaches, he's going to be a phenomenal coach. And when you start seeing, I mean, you could just see it. It was almost like a little tidal wave that was growing. And like, man, he's really falling in love with this football thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me about that. You're working under Adam Clack. Tell me about that first year, freshman head coach. What kind of challenges did you have being a freshman head coach?
Yeah, so coaching freshman football, again, I had not played football since I was in high school. Really did not expect to come and be a football coach. And so I'm kind of learning on the go, trying to pick his brain offensively for everything that I can, use with those freshmen. But really the biggest thing, in my opinion, as a freshman head coach was keep as many headaches, keep as many emails off the head coach's plate. You just want those kids to go out and have fun and fall in love with it and just have a good time. It's easy to do that when you're winning. Obviously that helps a lot, but that was kind of always how I saw my role as a freshman coach, was to keep as many guys out as sophomores. So get as many guys out as we can, maintain that roster, keep those guys in the program as sophomores, and then just eliminate as many headaches as possible for the head coach, because freshman year is unique because they're coming into high school. It's their first year in high school, but it's that transition from freshman to sophomore year where they go from, they've had their own group, their own program. They've always been isolated by themselves, their own team, and then they've switched to sophomore year. Now they're literally at the bottom of the totem pole. And so that was always kind of an interesting. I tried to prepare them, I guess would be the best way to describe that, but get them ready to be like, hey man, like, yeah, you're a starter now, but next year, there's a guy going to South Carolina in front of you. So like you may need to put in some more work if you want to see some playing time because you're used to playing so much. This is just, trying to anticipate and have the forethought of this is what these kids are going to experience next year and just trying to keep the kids in the program, having a good time.
And from your perspective, you talked before about one of the key roles of being a head coach is problem solving. What's it like having a freshman head coach that can help filter that, but help also implement, the culture that you're trying to build into that program to get these kids ready?
Well, I think you hear right there. I mean, that basically becomes the nexus of our relationship. We saw things very similar, and I think we always strive to, not just put things into place that we thought sounded good or, that other teams are doing. Now, sometimes we did that and we had to go back and correct ourselves. But truly, uniquely looking in, what does our program represent? What are we trying to teach these guys? What are we messaging to them that we're about? And are we aligning to that? Mm-hmm. And so I think, just kind of hearing a little bit about how he approached the freshman staff and the freshman group, that is what kind of built with our relationship as he continued to move up and become a varsity coach. And now we're sitting back at the end of the season. Something that I'm proud of that I think we do a good job of is our reflective process.
Yeah, no doubt.
At the end of the year, I know everybody probably has some type of exit interview and some form of, hey, fill this out, tell me what you think. And a lot of times you'll get coaches who just kind of mail that in. But Steven and I could always count on him to truly, spend time thinking about the questions that I would put out. So the way that we would do our end of year reflection is I would basically sum up the season. Hey, these are some things some generic things that I thought went right, maybe some things that went wrong. I want your feedback. From a macro level first. What are some big picture things that we're missing or we're doing right? Down to the micro level. Now we're going to go into every phase of the season, from winter workouts to spring training to everything and above, down to our Friday night process. And I could always count on Steven to truly give me his honest feedback with that. And I think that was one reason he was a non-negotiable when I took this job to Milton, because I was like, he is literally, the one person that I know can go and talk to a new staff that we're going to be bringing together, who truly, we've worked this together. So much of the philosophies and the systems that we put into place, it was born out of conversations that probably dated back
years.
Yeah. When we're just two dudes just sitting around dreaming about being leading programs and things like that. So, truly having that relationship where it's an extension of yourself. And it's not a parrot of yourself either, because it was us building things together. I knew I could always get not what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear from him, but what I needed to hear from him.
Some of those reflections, so they're written first, and then we sit down, we have a conversation. And a couple times, I would send him my reflection from the end of the season, and he would take pause when reading. He's like, I don't know that I agree with this. I don't know, but he would digest it and then read it again, and then we'd sit down and we'd have a conversation. It's like, oh, okay. So again, feedback, constructive feedback, is something that is huge, because again, you don't always hear what you want to hear. But we tried to. He did a very good job trying to facilitate. I can't remember what you called it, like constructive conflict. Basically, present a problem and then let's talk it out. Like, everything is not going to always work perfectly, so let's just talk it out.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it. Let's hear your thoughts, and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And again, that's where a lot of the off-season stuff went. Was, hey, I see this problem. Once I got used to and prepared for the evaluations at the end of the year, I would have a notes section in my phone, and in September I'd be like, oh, I gotta jot this down because I gotta have this ready for the postseason evaluation. So then when the season was over, I pull out my phone, I got a list of these, some years it was 20 things, some years it was only 3 or 4 things. But then, you put those things on paper and then you talk about them, and then he has the conversation with 13 different, or 15 different guys, and then he and I would sit and talk about all the stuff that he talked about, for the months following. And so that, just the process of self-improvement and improving the programming is so vital, and to be able to have those conversations. And again, we would be in between second, third period, get caught in a 15-minute conversation about something he had a discussion with somebody in December, and it's March. You know what I mean? So it was so nice at West Forsyth because we were across the hall from each other. It was the conversation like never stopped. Yeah, like it was just a year-long conversation that just kept going.
I'm hearing the importance of the reflection process, right? The other thing I'm hearing that's really cool is, and from a leadership standpoint, we talk a lot about leadership that transcends, just football. But from a leadership standpoint, there's value in not just having carbon copies of your leadership style, because a reflection point where it's just a people regurgitating what they think you want to hear isn't doing the program any good. Having balanced opinions, perspectives, and people that can bring in different thoughts and different things, and then ultimately feeding up to the leader to digest that and analyze that is incredibly important.
Well, and to take that a step further, and something I had to learn a lot of times, whether it just be in a staff meeting or whether it be at this ultimate year-end reflection, I used to feel like I used to present a problem or a question, and then I would quickly interject. Well, here's what I'm thinking. And I realized real quickly, and I think it was reading something on Nelson Mandela, they were like, one of his biggest attributes is he would sit and he would say nothing. Yeah. He would let his assistant coaches, his lieutenants, talk it out so that he truly got an idea of where they stood. And it's not a gotcha or anything. You truly want to hear what other people's perspective of this are, because everybody's seeing it from a different lens. Yeah. Whether it be a freshman coach looking at it from that level up, or an assistant coach looking across the way. And I used to interject first. So especially with that reflective process, what I learned along the way, and I think is very valuable for any leaders, aspiring leaders out there, I would never push those questions out and then give you mine first. I waited for your response to come in, and then I would go through, then I would give you mine. And I was looking for those areas where, we aligned, okay, that makes sense. And then I would look for the areas where we didn't. Now, that didn't necessarily always mean that, okay, well, we didn't align, so I must be doing something wrong, or you're doing something wrong. That was just those periods of conflict that we're looking for, good conflict, to have conversations. And maybe it's something I just didn't clarify enough. Or maybe it was like, yes, this didn't work. Like I think back to like our second position system in philosophy that we worked years to develop. In the first 2 to 3 iterations, I think people were ready to kick it out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, there's value there, and we can speak deeper to it later. I said, there's value there. We're just not hitting these marks. Mm-hmm. But then there would be other things, like I said, fell early, fell often. Yep, we tried this. It sucked. Kick it out. Mm-hmm. Cool. Whatever. Yep. No harm, no foul. Yep. So that was something that Steven and I think really, because of our relationship, because of just how much we communicated and kind of saw things very similar, he was able to help, especially when you go to a new program. And that's why somebody like Steven on your staff, when you come to a new program, is so important, because he can help and have a different relationship with the assistant coaches that you have. Like, no, this is what he's looking for. Mm-hmm. And he truly is. Yeah. Versus, hey, it's just, a lot of coaches will give this out, and then they're just looking to hammer you if you don't agree with them. I've seen that, and I've heard that from other guys. Head coach said he wanted some feedback, and I gave him some, and then he just, he berated me. He's like, no, it isn't that. Mm-hmm. But we do absolutely need to have conversations where we're not aligned, so that it's not compliance, it's commitment. Yeah. We're going to be committed to this because we truly built this together, and we've had a chance to dialogue about it.
I want to talk about that transition. I want to talk about the 2016 year at West Forsyth. Some of the challenges, obviously, you guys are both coaching together at West Forsyth, and a year later, you're both coaching together at Milton. So, Steven, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys were experiencing in 2016, and ultimately why make the move with Clack over to Milton.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to a topic he had on earlier, I mean, staying up late on Friday nights thinking about, hey, I wonder if we could ever do something awesome in a potentially great program in the future. And then to have that opportunity presented with the ability to come to Milton. We had always seen Milton as, literally just a place with so much opportunity because, not only do you have so much community support and involvement, but also we felt that every time that we played Milton, they had better athletes. They had a better roster of kids. And at West, I think we only played them a handful of times, maybe just a couple, but we never lost to Milton. And so it was something that we always felt like we were doing a great job as a coaching staff, and we just wanted to be able to take what we felt that we were doing a good job and take that to a different place with a much higher ceiling. And so, getting that opportunity in 2016, the first thing is just the travel. Because, when you uproot a head coach from a program that a lot of these Milton kids loved, and you're trying to maintain the roster, and he's going over from West to Milton every single day, meeting with all of the seniors first, and then going down the classes on the roster, just to try and reassure them like, hey, this is kind of my vision. This is what I plan on doing. I want you to have a chance to be heard. Like, what are your thoughts? And just to try and make sure, hey, are the kids in a good headspace? And then also just we're trying to leave West and come to Milton for spring practice. We're trying to get the equipment room organized. There's all these things that we're just X's and O's because. Because at that point, some of our day jobs are still at West Forsyth, and so we've got a 9 to 5 at West, and then we've still got to come over here and get done what we need to get done. And at the time, he's living off of like up off 17 on 400, and I'm living down in Brookhaven, and so we're kind of cross commuting. It was definitely a transition spring, but again, it's one of the reasons that he and I enjoy coaching together is that a lot of times we do have some constructive conflict. I don't have a better term to call that, but we do see we see things the same way. And a lot of times, we see an issue and he says something, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. And so just knowing that, hey, this is the goal of these next 3 months. We've got to get XYZ done before we even get to spring practice. And I had the same vision of how to get those things done that he had. And being able to come over and have a successful first spring practice, and then I believe we played Brookwood, and then we performed well, and so it was very nice because it was very challenging to help take over a program, to get it on what we believe to be the right path, and then to get the kids to trust in us and continue to have fun on the field, and then to play a good team. And then win, and again, of course, it's a spring game, it's a scrimmage. But then for them to go out and have success really kind of solidified the transition and made those guys really believe in him, which just set us up for a great summer and 2017 season. So,
tell me what are some of the key things you think that you guys implemented early on in that first year to really help set up success?
Well, I think we changed how they worked out and lifted in the summer. I think from a physical perspective, I think that was a big change for them. They were used to heavy lifting. Those kids were strong. The Milton kids were huge, and they were strong, all of them. And we kind of implemented more of a dynamic style of workout. We implemented a 2-position system, which a lot of them, I tell you, the first time they came in and saw their names on a whiteboard, and their names were somewhere where they did not currently play, and they had no clue what they were looking at. And we just had a vision of, hey, if such and such gets hurt, maybe he can fill in this role for 7 plays to help us win the game. They saw the board as, coach has changed my position. I don't like this. And so it was kind of one of those, We had to
Yeah.
talk them through that.
Yeah.
But
and
Jake,
this is huge because we talked last time about weigh-in and buy-in, right?
yeah.
And so how do you get buy-in on something like that when kids are that nervous?
The good thing is that every kid wants to win. They want to be a part of a successful program. So it really honestly sells itself once they understand the process and once they understand, hey, coach has my name by this position and also by this position, but he's not taking me completely out of what I'm doing. Now, in some cases, there's one or two kids that we're going to ask you to sacrifice for the team. But on the whole, they understand, hey, this unit on the field is not performing. Either they've got injuries or they're young or, for whatever reason. And we can sit back and we can watch them continue to struggle, or I can buy into this two-position system and I can go give some of my time in practice. I mean, we're talking 15 minutes. And I can help improve that position for 10 plays a game, and then we can be more successful as a team. And when they see that translate to tackles and touchdowns, and they see it's helping the team win, and we're being more successful. I mean, like I said, every kid wants to win. It talked a lot about fear of failure, and I don't want to go. I'm a stud DB. I don't want to go play wide receiver and then continually go up and drop balls and get locked down by the next DB. Like, I want to just be a corner and be outstanding at what I do. Mm-hmm. And so getting them to buy into not only the new position, but also, hey, challenge yourself. Like, what are you scared of? Like, is it a failure or is it feedback? How can I get better? I mean, we spend so much time talking about stuff like that, but they saw the value that it had, and that was kind of like he said, the vision of this two-position system was years in the making. And once we finally, I feel like, implemented it correctly, I mean, the kids, they see what works. Mm-hmm. They see what transitions to wins, and so they were bought in. I mean, everything. I think one of the most important pieces the first year that he was head coach at Milton was everything we told them ended up coming true. And the two-position system telling them that it's going to be successful, it's going to help us, it's going to build depth, it's going to all these different attributes the two-position system has, and then them being able to see that is successfully helping our team. I mean, everything he said, I feel like those first couple of years ended up coming true, which that just increases your buy-in immediately.
Well, and just to speak to that a little bit, and there's some elements I want to dig into, because I think, if you're just hearing the two-position system on face value, you're like, oh, you're just talking about having an offensive practice and a defensive practice. We already do that. No. To me, we wanted to maintain the integrity, because we had the ability and the numbers to have a two-platoon system. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by a two-platoon system is every game I wanted to go in with 22 starters. I didn't want any kids starting on both sides of the ball. So that's a challenge in and of itself. So I want to be able to have, when we get into the season, basically offenses is practicing while defenses is practicing, so we don't have to split it up and, basically have just an emphasis day and another emphasis day on whatever our hybrid schedule. So we're trying to weave that. How do we keep the integrity of that? But there were three problems that I can think of off the top of my head, just going back to our reflective process. 2013, we lost a playoff game, I felt like, because we had a rash of injuries at a specific position on offense. And we didn't have this system, so we had to crash course a DB to come in and play this critical position on offense. And he did his best, but he still wasn't. Yeah. I mean, we're trying to cram 12 weeks of scheme. So obviously he wasn't prepared. We could have prepared some players to be ready to step up. Another issue that we had, I think it was 2015, had a great competition at quarterback, and then one ultimately wins. Well, the backup quarterback, he's valuable as a backup quarterback, mm-hmm. but because we didn't have a system in place for him to work other things, he basically had to serve in just that backup position because he was too valuable there, where he could have been helping, at receiver or DB or somewhere else. I ended up losing that kid the next year, and rightfully so. He was a good baseball player. He's like, Coach, I'm just wasting my time. So how do we build a model that's flexible enough for us to keep critical backup still learning, and then also give them an opportunity to go out and help on the field? And then lastly, and I think this is a big one, you might be a Division I defensive lineman, but on the team right now as a junior, you're not starting. How can I create a system to where that kid can start and implement and help somewhere else and still develop as this position that he wants to be in and is good enough to be, great one day, just the way our team is constructed right now.
Yeah.
He's not ready to go. So we created a system, and it was like, if you commit to us and help us here, it'll restart next year. And if you continue to develop, we will give you the thing about Jonathan Pittman and Gilles Teo. They started as junior left tackles, right tackles, and did a great job.
Yeah.
And the first one was very hesitant. If I do too good of a job, you won't let me go back and play that. No, I promise you.
Yeah.
You will have that opportunity to win the position of your choice in the next spring. Just the way we're constructed right now, you're sitting. So it was about getting our best kids on the field, and then in those critical moments, also being able to pull that SEC safety to come over and help, on offense in critical moments. But keeping the integrity of that 2-platoon system. So it was a lot of work. I mean, it really was, because, again, we're trying to tie all this stuff back. The one thing I hated was when I would get posed with a question that was contradictory to what we said.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, you said I have an opportunity to compete at the position of my choice, but you assigned me a job in spring and never gave me a chance to win that other job. So as we constructed it, I remember what you were talking about. Yeah. The kids walked in and they saw their names on the board and they're freaking out. And I said, I promise you. And I did this for the rest of our career. I said, you tell me what position you want to compete for. I give you one. I don't care if you're, a left guard and you want a shot at quarterback. If you want it in spring, I'm going to give it to you. Mm-hmm. But I reserve the right to put you in another position. And I think everybody can look at that and say, that's fair. And how long do you get to compete in that position? Long enough. Mm-hmm. Long enough for you to see and me to see you are either good enough or not good enough. Mm-hmm. And you know what? How many times did we get surprised? Yeah. And it's like, whoa, he said he was a pretty good running back, and I'll be damned he is. Yeah. And so when we come out of spring, we maintain. So the way the format of 2-position work was, in spring, everybody's going to have 2 positions. It doesn't necessarily have to be offense and defense. It could be 2 offensive positions, 2 defensive positions, or cross-train. But you're going to do 2 positions for 50% of that spring. Mm-hmm. And then when we hit the first month of June, we're going to maintain that 50-50 split so that you really learn the bones of what this is. We're going to build on that roof, but the foundation is going to be set. And we would even switch some guys. Yeah. Because we were going to make sure you had 2 positions. So sometimes in spring we'd see, I'm thinking of Thomas Arundel right now, outside linebacker. And he was a really good athlete. We you know what, let's cross-train him at safety. Well, it didn't look good at safety. So we were going to say, well, I guess he's just an outside linebacker. Well, we're playing what we call eagle ball or Wolverine ball, where it's just kind of this razzle-dazzle, all-forward passes type thing, just to let him organically go out and play. And all of a sudden, this kid's going up and mossing people left and right.
All day.
His second position's tight end. Yeah. 7 touchdowns and 38 catches later, we found our tight end. So it gave us this flexibility to experiment. Fell early, fell often. We could experiment with kids and let them kind of see, like, you didn't even know you could do that. Now look at it. And just when you kind of hit that with these guys, they start to trust and buy in.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then you got to own up to what you said. If I told you if you played left tackle for me this season, and I know that's not your position of choice, next season when we come back and you have a shot to be one of the top D linemen, you'll play D line, and then we'll figure out offensive line from there.
You're touching on it, but I want to bring it back to you, Steven. So tell me, how did that second position system or strategy play into your overall holistic game planning?
Well, see, and excuse me, this holistic game plan, that's one of the areas where I feel like when he first approached me about this idea, I feel like we started, in my opinion, separating ourselves in terms of elite level coaching staffs. Now, again, I don't know the process of all these other coaching staffs in the state, but I just kept looking at, each week we would win a game and I'd be like, man, that's crazy. And I would start counting up all the things that I felt that we were doing differently from other high school programs. And it was just, it was incredible. And the holistic game plan, I just feel like there can't be too many teams out there that are actually preparing this way just because you don't see it transition on the field. So the holistic game plan is, a lot of people talk about it on Saturdays. Oh, it's just playing complementary football. Well, sure, okay, yeah, defense wants stops, offense wants touchdowns, but that's not holistic game plan. Like, I can't think of a specific example right now, but you take a team like Colquitt in 2018. We know that they've got a really good kicker, and he can hit from 60, and they're gonna move the ball between the 20s. And so, knowing that on as a defensive coach, I was coaching outside linebackers at the time, and knowing our offense has got chances that they can take, and our defense can be more aggressive because they know that they're going to move the ball. Once we get in the red zone, we got to own the red zone. We got to keep them out of the end zone. Just having that knowledge and being able to put a game plan together on Sunday, not on Friday on the way to the game, but to talk about in a staff meeting on Sunday, hey, I think we should do this on offense. I think we should sit on the ball. I think we should go tempo. I think, X, Y, and Z. And our defensive coordinator, Drew Connell at the time, not a big blitz guy. We want to sit back and play base defense, play fast and physical. And it was successful. We didn't need to blitz. But when you look at holistic game plans, especially for a young defensive coordinator, and hey, I want you to take shots on defense because I want you to take chances in blitz and play some man coverage. Because on offense, we're going to move the ball and we're going to score at will. So take some chances, see if you can get them, a 3 and out. And I think that is so valuable, especially for a young coordinator, to just be like, let's roll the dice a little bit. And not do things that are not fundamentally sound. You got to be gap sound. You got to play, coverage well. But just to give guys like that the ability to have some flexibility with their calls, and we don't have to sit back and play base defense, and we don't have to get 3 and outs every time. But we can actually have a little fun. We can open up the playbook a little bit. Let's get some exotic, get exotic with some of our blitzes. Let's try and play some trap coverages and stuff like that. Just the ability for the coordinators to go into the game plan knowing, I don't have to score every single drive for us to beat this team. Or we can give up some points. Like, obviously, you don't want to give up 30, 45 points, but I know that they're going to be able to move the ball, but our offense is going to score, so let's take some chances to try and get them off the field. And that holistic game plan is just, I feel like it's freeing for some of the coordinators, especially young coordinators, just because you can take risks, you can take chances, and that's a lot of times people are too scared to do that. And so, we're sitting around joking in 2018. We thought we had to be one of the youngest staffs ever, where I think our average age was like 31. And to be that young and to be able to have such an intricate game plan and take a lot off the shoulders of our coordinators, just give them the ability to just call plays and have fun, man. So
I think about it, going back to like our reflective process. We lost a game that we should not have lost week 10 to South Forsyth. And I remember getting taught a lesson in that game. And they clearly had tied their game plan together so tight that they were truly offense was complementing defense and special teams. And how they did that was this. We had a dynamic offense that they felt that they could not just line up with and stop. However, we were a big tempo team. And they were playing a backup quarterback. So their game plan was not just to sit on the ball, but to create short yardage situations, and they were going to go for it on 4th down all over the field. And then they were going to let the clock run. And then they were going to go. So they're holding the ball. So what's our offense doing? It's sitting on the sideline. But here's where the complementary piece comes in. They didn't just say, okay, defense, go stop them. They said, defense, cover 0, bring pressure. We're either going to turn them over or they're going to score quick. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to turn right back around, and we're going to be their defense on the field again.
That's awesome.
And it took me about a quarter and a half to realize exactly how well they had tied that plan together. And then I just started reflecting. I said, you know what? Coach Arnett just taught this young guy a lesson. Because there are times where I could go back now and kick my own ass, because I remember my coordinators coming up on the sideline when I'm the head coach now. The defense coordinator, hey, coach, we're tired. Is there any way you can slow? And I look at it and I said, man, offense's job is to score points. Defense's job is to stop them. If we keep scoring, they can't catch us. What a selfish, just a very closed-minded way to look at it. And I feel that on most staffs that I've ever been a part of and most staffs I talk to, that kind of is the mentality. Everybody's going in and trying to stop them and trying to score, But sometimes it's about how do we complement each other. And maybe this game plan means we're going to win, 6-3. And the offensive coordinator's got to understand your success is not tied to the points per game that we used to measure ourselves by. Your success is tied by the way that you figure out and buy into the idea that we're going to slow this game down and keep that offense off. And if that means that you're going to score less points, so be it. We're going to win the game. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. Conversely, we could flip it. Say, hey, this team, and this is what we had to do a lot of at Milton because we felt that we were the better physical team. The only way that teams can beat us is like they did in 2016 if they trap us into one of these games that's limited possessions. Right. So we're going to speed this game up. And what I need out of you, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Your tactics are you. You're the defensive coordinator. You guys are the experts. I just need you to play in this style. Mm-hmm. If you feel like they're sitting on the ball and you can't get them off by just rushing 4 and playing coverage, well, dude, we got to flip the gear and we got to figure out a way to bring pressure and to force the issue. And if you play cover 0 and they throw one over the top of your heads, I remember telling them, I will put a freaking billboard up and say, Coach Clack told me to play 0, and that's why we gave up 35. But I hope the caveat will be, but we scored 45.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure we get those. And then you bring in, the special teams aspect. Hey, does field position matter? Hey, they got a kicker good at 60. Well, yeah, field position matters. Maybe we're going to be more likely to punt. Yeah. So just all those things. How good are they in the red zone? I think back to the first Roswell game. And here's another big piece. When you can tell your players, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this is the game plan. We're going to be aggressive on 4th down. Don't be surprised if we go for it, on our own 35. Or they're not great on special teams, or they have holes. We may, because we want to be aggressive, fake a punt on our own 25. Because here's the thought. Defense, I trust that you can hold them out of the end zone. Defense, hey, they're really explosive between the 20s, but when they get into the red zone and the field shrinks, we can stop them. And then all of a sudden, it plays out. It plays out. And the kids start looking at you, and they're like, man, he told me something, and it came true.
And now it's happening.
And the buy-in from that. And then the power, to me, it was very, as a head coach, I just think about the 4 down, and it's a big topic of conversation right now with analytics and everything about the aggressive 4 down nature. And one thing that people talk about a lot is the morale. Oh, man, you went for it on 4th down, and that's just, that's dejecting your team. Not if you tell them why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. It actually created a sense of urgency on our team because I would gas up the defense in certain situations. Hey, I'm doing this because I know you got my back. Yeah. And sometimes when we would go for it, like on 4th down, because that was the game plan, and not get it, defense is running out there. All right, we got you, coach. We got you, coach. And then they do it. And then the next time we go for it on 4th down and we get it, and it leads to a touchdown, and then you just see that is truly what complementary football is. Yeah. And I feel like complementary football right now stops at, hey, the offense didn't score, defense has got to stop them, or the defense gets a turnover and offense needs to go score. No crap. That's football. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do every time. Yeah. Complementary means how are we tying these things together so that we truly complement each other in styles. I love that. So that we can win collectively.
Well, and that's also trying to earn buy-in from your coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Because, we already talked about 2 positions trying to get buy-in from the kids. But you tell a defensive coordinator, it's okay if you let them score 30. I've not let them, but it's
okay. But the style of this game may result in a higher scoring game.
Yeah, and to get them to have the humility and everyone says trust in the process, but trust in the holistic game plan that we've talked about since Sunday. Again, earning that buy-in from the coaching staff. No offensive coordinator wants to go into a game and only score 7 points. No defensive coordinator wants to give up 40. But when you put a holistic game plan together week after week, and you see success, then you start to have buy-in. Maybe not start to have buy-in, but you continue to build that buy-in from especially your coordinators because, again, just like the kids, we all want to win.
Well, and 2, it was a conversation. I mean, this was what led our staff meetings on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it was like, all right, DC, what do you see? What are you scared of? What do you think, honestly? Mm-hmm. OC, what do you see? What do you think? What are you scared of? Special teams, what do we see? All right, now we start mapping it out. All right, we're going to play with this type of tempo. We're going to have this type of 4-down aggression. Going back to the Colquitt and then Archer of that year. We're a very aggressive 4-down team, 3rd and long. Like, I want to be going for the sticks. But in those games, we realized, these teams are opportunistic on defense. If they get you into a 3rd and long, that's where they want you, and they're dialing up the pressure. And here comes a pick six, and it's over from there. Yeah. So down to hey, on 3rd down, it's one read, tuck it, and go, Jordan. And if we don't get the first down on that time, we'll punt. We're cool. All right. Well, there's other times where it may be bro, put it up. Put it up. We're not worried about it. Or we're going to be super aggressive on 4th down. Cut it in half. So anyways, all of those things went into it, and I felt like the more we did it, the better the coaches got at, okay, he's not just watching the game through and directing us what to do. We're literally soliciting feedback. And there was many times, when I came in here with one idea, but after listening to I can remember Drew man, I don't think we can stop their run, and Drew's like, no, we got it. Yeah. I'm not worried about it. We can stop that. Oh, okay. Well, then that changes my mind a little bit about how we should attack on offense. Yeah. And things of that nature. So
well, it sounds like you've got everything from a holistic game plan, which is setting up true complementary football, right? We've got a second position strategy in place. We've got a game plan that isn't just in here and isn't only in your thoughts and hidden. The key component of this is effective communication to the players.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they're the ones that are actually playing the game, right? Tell me about communication to the players, Stromie.
So this is one of the things that I think that AC was so good at was, and he touched on it earlier. When you tell the kids something, you have to follow through. So when you talk about whatever it is, 2-position system, when you talk about workouts, practice, whatever, communication is of the utmost importance. Going back to the player reviews, the player evaluations, there's just so many things that I feel like in the football world, communication is not one of the high standards. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially from coach to player. I don't. When I think of football, I don't think of great communicators. But again, sometimes those are your best coaches, are the people that can communicate. So when it came to communication, I think that AC, number one, communicating our core values and reiterating those on a daily basis, and the players getting to see what our core values truly meant and what they looked like, and to be able to associate our core values with behaviors, that was so much more. It was so much more important that they understood those values rather than just seeing words on a sheet of paper. They could associate our core values with actions and what that looked like on the field at practice, on the field at a game, walking down the hallways and seeing your boy, getting into something maybe he shouldn't be doing, just all kinds of things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that communication is one of, if not the most important aspects of especially aspiring head coaches. I mean, you have to be a great communicator, not just with your players, not just with your parents, but also with your staff. I mean, just talk about our Sunday meetings. The amount of honest communication that went back and forth when you talk about a holistic game plan, when you talk about just all the X's and O's. I mean, communication, it doesn't really get much more important than that.
Yeah, and I think I think everybody understands communication is important. I just don't know that maybe you have the systems in place, or you're looking for those pain points of when great communication didn't happen and why. I feel like when it comes to X's and O's, good coaches across the board clearly are communicating what they want well. But I think, this touches on a different point. It's kind of an old school way of thinking versus a different is, hey, they're the players and we're the coaches. We should just say, jump how high. I told you what this is and you should have gotten it, based on your role or whatnot. And so I just noticed, and kind of going back to like that 2016 season, which, I always reflect back on, because I felt like we did a lot of good things, but I also, in a weird way, felt like it was one of my biggest failures just because we didn't achieve some of the things. And one of them was, and it came out of a parent meeting, with about a kid's, not his playing time, but his role. And it was a very productive conversation of, look, I'm not here to talk about how you're using him. I think you guys are doing a great job. He just doesn't understand. And I remember the first thing, but we told him, and I wanted to take it back. Because just because I told you is a really, really crappy explanation.
Wow.
Do not mistake the transfer of information as communication.
Yeah.
And how many times as a coach have we said something in passing? Oh, I forgot to say, as we're walking off the field, your role is X, Y, and this and that. You know how much of that kid heard? I mean, half at best. He's thinking about his girlfriend, his homework, something that happened 2 hours ago. So we started creating this process, what we called our player reviews, player performance reviews, where we literally would have the kid fill out what his role is before he could sit with his coach. And then the assistant coach would fill the role out that he believed the player to have. And then they would have to sit, very much like our reflections. Yep. Then they would have to sit and make sure it aligned. Because how many times, just like if a head coach is talking to his staff and I say something and you get this passive compliance. Oh, yeah, that's what I think too. And then it goes in one ear and out the other. Now the player had to put it on paper. There's no hiding from it. Oh, I think I'm fighting for the starting X position on varsity. No, you're still fighting for the JV position. Your actual role for the varsity is to fight for some special teams and to be the best scout player that you can be, and to do X, Y, and Z. Now, we would also leave another element underneath that. What is your desired role? Okay, well, it's starting X. This is what you need to do to get there. And we would have that, and we would keep that, and now there is no hiding from what your role is and what your expectations are. And I'm going to tell you one of the best pieces for that, because I also wanted to have open dialogue, and I wanted parents to be able to, if there's something on your heart, let's talk about it, instead of closing that door and letting them talk about it amongst themselves. Come on, you want to meet? You want to talk about playing time? Cool. You, your player, and the assistant coach, we're all going to sit here and we're going to talk it out. And we will pull that performance review out and confirm that dialogue has happened. And whatever the conversations behind closed doors at home were, they changed real quick when everybody's looking at each other. And we probably had 20 of those meetings, because that was one of the biggest things, like my peers were telling me when I came here. Man, the parents run that school, they do this.
That's all we heard.
Yeah. I was like, well, okay. They're a bunch of A-type, successful businessmen. This is exactly what they do with their reports.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
They will appreciate when they see that this is what we're doing with because their players aren't going home and telling them we had this process.
No, they're not.
But when they came in, and we probably had 20 to 22 meetings that first year. And I was like, yeah, open the door. And it sucked. But you know what? I started kind of looking at it like, you know what? Let's make this a challenge. Let's make this competitive within myself. How many of these people can I flip from being kind of maybe not on the bus and kind of weighing it down to being like, you know what? Like, hey, I can't argue with how you're communicating with my son, how you're treating him. He's getting the marching orders, so it's up to him. Coach shakes hands. Now we got somebody on the bus pulling in the right direction. So those were the kind of things that we would try to go to, the links that we would go to. And did we get it right all the time? Hell no. But we were getting it right a lot more than we used to.
And these are, it sounds like common sense, right? But it is so hard to get not only players' parents, everybody aligned on the same page, but getting your coaches aligned on the same page, trying to implement specific practice habits. Talk to me about ways that you got in the off season, coaches aligned, getting everybody ready for the upcoming season.
Alignment from top down, I think, is one of the most impressive things that I noticed when we came to Milton. Starting with Mr. Jones, Principal Jones. After him, obviously, athletic director Gary Silvestri. Those two guys had our back. Those two guys were willing to listen to what our needs were and to do everything they could to help us with those needs. And once you can gain the support of the admin and they are fully behind you, it's just such a good feeling to know that, I can go out there and they've got my back, and then allow us to do those things that we do on Sunday meetings and to go out and perform like we do on Fridays. But then from a staff perspective, that was kind of one of my biggest things. It was one of my biggest challenges when I came to Milton. Not being aligned with him. That we were on the same page. But it was, all right, I'm meeting a lot of new people. I'm meeting guys that have been here for a lot longer than I have been here. And I'm with just new guys on the staff. We're seeing how the staff gels together. And I'm a pretty, I say that I'm an introvert. My wife would disagree. But, I remember having a conversation with him one day, and we were talking about dyads and triads, and that's a conversation for another day. But he was like, you're always over here with Drew because you guys both came over here from West. He's like, I need you to be more. And it wasn't because I didn't like the guys on staff. I was comfortable being around Connell. We've been coaching for like 3 or 4 years together, and to then make a concerted effort to go out and make sure I'm chopping it up with guys on offense, guys on defense, guys that I don't know that well, and to be able to help try to bring some staff cohesion, and then again, a lot of what he was mentioning earlier with the reflection piece at the end of the year. The first year we did that, a lot of the guys had an interesting opinion about, is this like I don't know if I'm gonna be exactly honest here. I'm like, no. Like, he literally just wants your feedback. He's like, there's no wrong answer. But getting a bunch of different dudes on the same page, and to buy into stuff like a holistic game plan and to see that all come to fruition, man, it was impressive. It was pretty cool.
Well, and you touched on alignment. So I always say there's 4 leadership teams, and the first one is that the head coach has to be a part of. The first one is the administration. That goes lateral, if not top down, from administration to head coach, right? So you play a different role in that. The principal is the leader of the school, and he makes the ultimate decision. So you want to make sure that, hey, I'm communicating what I need and making sure we're on a line here, and that's done in the interview process and up front early.
Yeah.
And Brian and I were, and Gary and I were. But I also made a very concerted effort. What do you need? What are the things? I'm here for a reason. What are the things that will keep me here? What are the main problems that you need solved? And I'm going to make it part of our philosophy to solve it. So I think that drives some alignment there. And then I was always very careful. And again, every coach is going to be different. But a lot of times I think you come in and you're like, I'm the head coach. Time to start throwing my weight around and demanding things and this and that, and I probably erred on the side of passive at times. But what Steven was alerting to there, if I ask for something, because I made sure, it's almost like credits, right? I got these credits. Dude, we got this small problem. Is it really that big of a deal? Is it going to keep us from winning ball games and running the program? No, not really. It would just be nice. Well, then let's solve that. I'm not going to the administration.
You're not going to cash in your cool points for that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a big problem that we really thought made a difference in our program, I would go to them. And I knew, because they knew I was only coming to them with things that really were important to me, I knew that they would give me their best effort to make it happen.
Yeah.
And if it didn't happen, I was okay with that because I knew that effort was being made versus, I think there's some administrations out there, they just like to say no because it's more work.
Yeah.
And so you have your administrative team, and then you've got your staff, your players, and your community driven by the Booster Club. Talking about the staff mainly, if that staff fractures, and it's a very, very hard thing when you come into a new school, because you don't get to it ain't like the NFL and college where you just wipe it out and you plug your guys in. You're going to have a handful of guys you bring, and you're going to have a handful of guys you inherit. 2 staffs have to come together. And, there's a conversation that, I'm sure you remember it now that I bring it up, but, him being the assistant head coach, I think he was just still feeling like, I'm just still at West, and the guys see me as just, a tight ends coach, O-line coach, AC's boy, whatever. Like, no, they see you as the assistant head coach. And when you're over there and, you're just kind of hanging out with the guys who came from West, the guys from Milton are feeling some kind of way, potentially. So that was what that conversation, I was like, you don't realize how people are looking at you now. Like, and I think that was kind of something that you took a little step back.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then leaned into, and then it was so cool because, we did other things like staff retreats and things of that nature to get this staff together, but that was definitely, and I think you really flipped that switch of being that kind of, that conduit between the staff's career, kind of merging and filtering back up, that helped that whole alignment piece. That the faster that comes together, obviously, right?
Yeah,
if it doesn't come together, you're going to have some major problems. The slower it comes together, the longer it's going to take. We flipped this thing in 18 months because a lot of those things were the priority up front, and we got them right quickly.
Yep.
And just down to teaching expectations. Again, I think about practice expectations.
Yeah.
Completely different practice style when we got here.
But it just goes back to communication, man. We're talking about, I didn't recognize that I was even doing that. I'm at practice and there's a special teams period, so I got about 5-10 minutes off, and instead of going and hanging out with the DBs or the receiver, whatever, I'm just off to the side with the guy that I've been standing next to for the last 3 years, and just him just saying, hey, I need you to do this, or think about how they're viewing you versus what. And again, it's just something I hadn't even thought about. It wasn't a negative or a coming down on me or anything. It was just like, hey, you ever think about this? And I was like, I have not even thought 1 second about that. But just and that's again why we always work so well, is that like I wasn't like, coach came down on me. Like, no, we're talking. I think so many people, especially coaches that are knowledgeable, they're so sensitive, and when you come to them with something, they feel attacked.
Yep.
And we have never had that problem, just because I don't think either of us really feel some type of way when we're having conversations with each other. But yeah, communication and just recognizing that, hey, I could do a better job at going and talking to the safeties coach, because I love all the guys that are on staff. So like, why am I not chopping it up with them in practice too? So it's just something as simple as that.
And you guys need to be commended for that, because both of you guys have shown that you're very willing, open to take feedback, right? And actually you use that to for the betterment of your own self, as opposed to looking at it as a negative or becoming defensive on that. So that's part of the reason why you guys have had so much success. I want to turn it back over to you. We're about running short on time here, but I want to kind of close things up here. You've been with Coach Clack for many, many years. You're now on a new staff. You had a state championship run, obviously, with Clack. Got to a second state championship, fell short thanks to Travis Hunter, but he's done damage for a lot of people. Won a state championship last year under Ben Reeves. He's doing an unbelievable job, and currently, right now, undefeated. Just won 7 regional championships in a row. And on hopefully a run to, hopefully get to another state championship, which would be amazing. But tell me, now under Ben Reeves, and not putting on the hot seat, it's not a hot seat, but, what are the things that he's doing the same? What are the things that the current program is maybe doing differently, and that you're like, man, that's a really good thing also?
Yeah. Well, I think, I think Coach Reeves has really recognized all the good systems that were in place. Stuff like our core values, those did not need to change, and he was a part of building those. So why come up with something just because you think that's what you're supposed to do as a head coach? Yeah. So he just took bet and he ran with it. The player evaluations, those things, like these things have not changed, and so I think he's done a good job of recognizing that I don't have to come in and make everything different just to make my mark on it. He's done things like, hey, I want to get new stuff in the weight room. I want to get the field, the fences wrapped with the windscreens. Just he's had a very specific vision, but I think the fact that he realized he doesn't have to be someone who comes in and erases everything that had happened in the past so that he can make his mark. He understood, hey, I was a part of this. This was successful. I'm going to keep X, Y, and Z, and he's kept a lot of stuff. From the way we practice, to our core values, to the player evaluations, to the Sunday staff meetings. A lot of things have not changed because he recognized I don't have to be a different person or I don't have to do something special to be different from AC. And so using those things to build on, and then tailoring that with his specific vision of where he wants to take the program and grow it even more nationally than we had before. I mean, it's been the best of both worlds, really. It's been really impressive. And it's interesting because my role has changed. I coached O-line for a long time, and I felt like I was, pigeonholed. It's hard to get, when you're an O-line coach, it's hard to go coach other things. Like, no one's going to hire you to hire you to coach DBs after you coach an O-line. But I finally got the opportunity to coach outside linebackers in 18. That's awesome. And then when he stepped down and Coach Reeves took over, he came to me and said, what are your thoughts? What are your plans? And I was like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coaching at Milton. He said, well, you ever thought about coaching tight ends? And I was like,
great position. Great.
And I'd had such a good time. I really enjoyed coaching. I coach outside linebackers and inside linebackers. And I was like, man, I love coaching defense so much. I don't know that I'm really ready to go back because, I just wanted to switch the sides of the ball because I wanted to learn. And only 4 or 5 years coaching defense, man. I don't know if I'm ready to go back. And he said, well, we got the potential to hire a couple of these guys, and one of them would be a good fit for an outside backers coach. And I said, well, all right, well, if you're telling me you can get this guy on staff by hiring him at outside linebackers, then absolutely, I'll coach whatever you need me to coach. And so then the more I thought about it, and he and I talked about it several times, and I had several conversations with him about it, coming over and coaching tight ends is honestly kind of putting my two worlds together, from coaching O-line and also coaching inside and outside backers. Now I'm kind of coaching what we kind of joke about as it's the tight end. The outside linebacker is the tight end position for the defense because they got to play on the line of scrimmage. They got to play at the second level. They got to play DB sometimes. And tight end's the same thing. We spend the first part of our days with the O-line, and then we go catch routes, and then we're doing it all. So it's a perfect fit. So I think
you have some pretty good tight ends that you're working with.
Tight end, baby. Tight end. Finally got a decent tight ends coach in the building now.
Can I just brag on him for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every freaking assistant coach out there can learn something. And I mean, you're talking about a guy who was groomed to be a wrestling coach, who was doing freshman football for fun, fell in love with it, played O-line, right? So naturally that's where the fit was.
O-line and linebacker.
That's where the fit was when he came up. Became, and he wouldn't say so, became a hell of an O-line coach. And then was like, it was a conversation one like, he goes, man, I want to learn this game. I didn't grow up going to the Glazier clinics and putting the hours in like you did as you were coming up. I was just kind of watching. If there's an opportunity, and he goes, if it's right for the team, would it be would you be okay maybe moving me over to defense? And it was like we were grooming another O-line coach at the time who I felt like, he's there, and we were able to go out later and hire a phenomenal O-line coach as well. But moving Steven over to defense, now he is supporting the defense in the way that he was supporting me on offense, and they needed it, but he's learning. He's learning all these different things. And now that opportunity comes up again, and I can't tell you how many times, again, it's a people business. I may want to move a guy's position for a specific reason, but if it's going to cause more trouble than it's worth, I got to fill that out. And there were times with some coaches where I was like, hey, I would like to, for your development, I think it would be good for you to coach a different position. And, maybe I had some guys in mind that I would go out and target, and I could just tell it was going to create friction. To have coaches on staff who are willing to do that, not only does that help the team, but how much better of a football coach are you now that you just said it? I put my two worlds together, and now I'm coaching these Division I tight ends to a very high level, and it afforded my head coach, with not just compliance but commitment from you, to go out and hire. And that the one thing that I would look at just from afar, Ben Reeves is one heck of a talent evaluator when it comes to coaches. He was able to keep a lot of the great guys and sell them on this when I stepped down, and there's a lot of nervousness. But then he was able to go out and identify and attack and get some great coaches in here. And, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it, and there's no knock to the staff that I have. This staff, what he has put together now is just nails from top to bottom. And then that affords him the ability to do what you're saying, which, again, I see from afar, the marketing of this program. And again, marketing maybe sounds kind of, well, that's, what does that matter? It matters in the way you feel. It matters in the way you present it. It matters in the people that now want to be associated with your program. And now you've got catapults and Guardian helmets and better things coming to the program for free because people want to be associated with it. And so, that I tip my cap to that because that's where I kind of see, just some of the cool things that we're able to, as the program got to here. Now it was able to get to here. And again, having the confidence to be like you said, well, I don't have to just put my stamp on something. I don't have to do something because I think it's what a head coach is supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's what I was ultimately trying to get at.
I'm going to actually analyze the situation and figure out what needs to stay, what needs to be embraced, leaned into, and then where can we improve. And obviously,
it's amazing because last time we talked about humility. Right, humility and what you have to do in order to try to earn the job, and I'm hearing
the embodiment of it.
I'm hearing you talk about it, and hearing the humbleness. And this is a coach who's been surrounded by greatness. I mean, you've achieved the best of the best, winning 7A state championship twice. There's nothing to be humble about.
State
Yet you are still
wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, you're still humble and truly, a compliment to you and the culture that you've built because I listen to you. You're the embodiment of brotherhood, effort, and toughness. I've just seen it right here. So this has been really fun to sit here and talk. We want to end with something kind of fun, rapid fire response. So
Usually not good at these.
very very few words.
Don't think that you got to go lightning fast. Just kind of what pops to mind.
Let's go. Favorite memory.
Can't be a state championship.
All right, so my favorite memory, well, it's not the state championship, it's the Sunday before. We're walking in, we just found out the 2018 Colquitt game because of, I think, the blizzard or whatever had gotten bumped back. It was not going to be on a Saturday, it was going to be pushed back to a Wednesday. And I poured over the film over the weekend. Coaching outside linebackers, watching their offense, their running backs, their wide receivers, and I'm coming in not uber confident. I mean, we got to anything could happen in a state championship. We'd gotten to the game, anything could happen. So I wasn't feeling great, but I also was not like, hell yeah, we got this. I walk in.
Well, we were 21-point underdogs for a reason.
Yes, 100%.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the defensive room, and AC walks in and goes, well, who's ready to win a state championship this week? And I was like, If he's that confident, then by God, I'm going to match his confidence level.
Great.
And it was that was pretty awesome.
That's great.
And it was so funny because that also came from the same season. Jumped back 9 months previous. We're in the off season. He walks in and goes, "Hey, you want to play in the Corky Kell?" I was like, "Yeah, we've been trying to get this thing, And he goes, "Well, it's going to be against Archer." And I was like, all right, let's go. And he had it was kind of a role reversal. Because he had not necessarily gone all in on it. And he was like, all right, you want to do it? Let's do it. And so it's kind of funny that we both had those moments in that same 2018 season to start the season with Archer and then to finish the season with Colquitt. So.
That's awesome.
And to speak to that just quickly, because I think it's important, I'm all about stretching. And I knew we had to get into these big events, to basically break. I remember in 2017, we had a good year. We won a playoff game, which was the fourth playoff victory in Milton history. We had beat every North Fulton team, beat them bad, but we didn't win a freaking region, and we lost in the second round because we didn't win our region. We had to go up against a better, and everybody's excited, and they're this. I said, the community. I said, I'm proud of what we've done in year one, but y'all shouldn't. We should have won that region. We should have been playing deeper in the playoffs. We've got to break this bubble of this idea that that is what's important. We've got to get in these bigger events and expose ourselves. But the point I'm trying to make is you also got to be careful. You got to be ready to perform in those events. Yeah. Because you can do a lot of damage going against an Archer or Corky Kell on TV and getting embarrassed. And so I was looking for that confidence from him and the staff, because I was on the fence. I was like, I think we're there. I think we can do this. They're like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, let's do it. Yeah. And that game set that season off.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, describe your coaching style.
I I don't know. I mean, you would probably be able to describe it better than me. I'm the antithesis of the screamer, yeller, in your face, always got something to say. And sometimes I try and work on that because I think I am. Laid back is not the right, because I mean, practices are intense, but the biggest thing that I think that coaches lack sometimes is they get their message across, but they don't communicate. And what I mean by that is they can get their guys to play hard, but they're not playing correctly, or they can play correctly, but they're not playing. You know what I'm saying? So I am very much more cerebral, especially now coaching tight ends. Defense is a little bit different. It's much more read and react, and it's just kind of a different aspect. But coaching tight ends, it's all about, hey, why did you screw up on that play? What went wrong? Do you know why you messed up? Because if they know why they messed up, then that's such an easy mistake to correct. And a lot of times they will know, a bad first step, or I looked over the wrong shoulder, or I got two hands on it, only gotta have one, whatever. But I'm pretty. I always try and have a good time out there, because at the end of the day, a lot of these guys try and take themselves too seriously, I think, because we are in a position where we're trying to win football games and bring notoriety to the school and build a brand and all that stuff. But just like we tell the kids, man, football's fun. Like, enjoy doing it. And so a lot of times I try and take a deep breath, enjoy it. I'll flip the switch when I need to, but with the guys I've been coaching the last few, there's no need to do that. I guess in a short response, cerebral would be the way.
Cerebral, okay.
I don't know.
All right. Long way to get to cerebral.
I know, sorry.
That's right.
That was good.
If you weren't a coach, what would you be?
Oh, that's a good one. Thought I'd probably end up going to med school or something like that when I was in college. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I think I'd
doctor?
I'd love to be, an athletic surgeon, or someone who works with, like Todd Town, something like that, who's in the medical field but also involved in athletics. That's
very interesting. Best player you ever coached against? Can't name the same person. See how far you guys go. So, Stromie, you go first.
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter was a pretty good football player.
Can't use his name.
probably going to be the Heisman favorite this year. Best ball skills I think I've ever seen. Best football IQ on the field I think I've ever seen. Mine would be senior season Deshaun Watson. Dude looked like he was a big cat playing with mice out there.
Yeah. I mean, that Grayson defense, Kimdichie or Wayne Gallman, I don't know who I want to go with, because both of those dudes made it to the league. I'll go with Kimdichie.
Robert Kimdichie. Talk about a dude who would carry the ball 13 times on you and step on your defensive end's face mask and then take your left tackle and throw it at the quarterback. Yeah, that was a problem. Man, I tell you, Caleb Downs. Watching every clip of his when we played them in the quarters his junior year.
Yeah.
I've never seen a safety with that much range and that much just aggression. He would make a tackle at the line of scrimmage, and then the next play you're like, okay, well, we can throw it over the top. Then he almost picks. From the middle of the field, he almost picks a slant and go off on the sideline. Like, that kid was incredible.
Yeah, that's who I was going to talk about next.
Yeah, got him.
Got to come up with no name now.
There's so many good players on that Archer team too. Matthew Hill from Brooklyn. Went to Auburn. Didn't hasn't had the career in college like Travis Hunter, but that dude on the football field, he was electric. He would house it, offense and defense.
So we lost back-to-back years to Brookwood in the playoffs. The last game we coached at West Forsyth was the first-round loss to Brookwood, which was an incredible game, coming down from 30 points, almost won.
Talking about Arendelle.
And then the second round in 2017, we play them.
Yep.
I think Matthew Hill had 6 touchdowns in those 2 games, and then would turn around and play defense and was the shutdown safety. So he was incredible. And I'll finish it off. I honestly think Eric Gilbert would probably, I would have to put in there just, I remember coaching him at the Georgia Elite Classic as a sophomore. And Rusty Manziel comes out and he's like, hey, I want to award him, defensive end All-American as a sophomore. Cool. 2 years later, he's Gatorade Player of the Year as a tight end receiver. And we played them in the second round, 19. Man, tell you why path is so important. We win our region. That 19 was a year we had to really rebuild. We lost 98% of our points in production from the 18th season to 19. But it's one of my prouder coaching years because we really, really had to strain and struggle to get that team to where they were, and we were rolling and playing pretty good ball. Freaking Marietta, probably the best team in the country that year, slips up and loses a region game, and now they're second in their region. We meet them in the second round.
Yeah, second round.
And we could have played them 100 times, and we would have lost 100 times. But we recovered 3 onside kicks in that game. Special teams were special, and it at least kept it a game.
That's good.
But no.
Yeah.
Eric Gilbert, he was incredible.
Wow. Those are some good names. Those are some good names. All right. It's a tough one. Worst loss or moment in a game you wish you could do over again?
That South Forsyth game. So 2016, we lost to Lambert. That was our shot to win the region championship. So we're like, we got the 2 seed locked up. We're better than South. I thought we were better than South that year. And then standing, I believe it was I'm pretty sure it was on their sideline at their place. And watching that clock just tick down from 12 minutes, then to 9, then to 6. And I think we finally got the ball with 4 minutes in the first quarter. And if we didn't go 3 and out, it was a quick drive. And then they took the ball, they got the ball back and put it in the end zone, and it was just like, uh-oh. And again, that's talk about where holistic game planning comes from. Like, that was a kick in the teeth. That was those are 2 tough back-to-back losses because the Lambert game took a lot out of me emotionally. I felt responsible for that in a way. Our O-line did not play very well, and yeah, that was a rough 2-game stretch back in 16.
But a lot was born out of that.
Yeah.
And kind of could probably close with this, I guess. Like that, it's called a crucible moment. I did like a leadership training thing. And it's like, what's a crucible moment? Something that really sucked, but you took the time to learn from. And it was, me and him both were devastated after that Lambert game. And then I felt like we lost that South game a lot because we didn't recover from it.
Yeah.
And this was a team that 2 weeks earlier came to Milton and beat Milton by 4 touchdowns. And it's probably why we have the job here today, to be honest with you. So there was a lot that went right in that season, but ultimately we came up short. And just he and we spent months probably talking, and one of the biggest things was we burnt those kids up. We did too much.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that we learned as we came here, is we were trying to do so much of, I would just look at what successful programs were doing. I'm like, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. Whether it really fit our program or not, And we were just trying to do so much, and we worked them so hard that, we peaked at week 6, and then they just started fizzling. Just physically. Not emotionally.
No.
We talk about burnout versus checkout.
Mm-hmm.
They were burnt out physically. They weren't checked out. They loved their coaches. That was a very tight coaching staff. We loved those kids. We'd been working with them since they were in 6th grade and knew they were going to be good. But we burned them up. And then another thing, we made win the region championship. The mantra. I would say it every time we get it. It was a tangible goal. So what happens in a season when you make everything about that and now you can't do it? Shit, man, there's still a lot to do. We could have had the second season of home field advantage in West Forsyth history if we just go and finish the season. But they were just so, Coach, we were all just drained. So learned a lesson about that, about, what is the ultimate goal here? And the ultimate goal, it's nice to win region championships. It's nice to go 10-0 or what, but that ain't the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to play as many freaking games as possible and to be playing your best ball when ball matters most. If that means I go 5-5 and we have to figure some things out, but we get to go 5-10 or 10-5, win.
Right.
If I go 10-0 and then we go 11-1 and that was the end of the season, loss.
Yep.
comparatively.
Yeah.
So that really shifted our framework, and I think it helped us when we came here because I think they were suffering that too. They were doing 5 day a week in the summer, 4 hours, long, slow practices, and it was just something that we had said we're going to build our plan around. When we're here, everything's going to count. It's going to be 90 miles an hour. We're going to be urgent in everything we do, and then we're going to stay on time. If I said you're getting out at 11 o'clock, you're out at 11 o'clock. We got to do a better job of keeping them on schedule. Our practices are going to be fast-paced. By the time we get to the playoffs, we should be practicing at an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep. I think most people would be shocked to hear that. Our practice.
We should be practicing at an hour and 45 minutes because we're efficient. We're getting in when we need to get in because you know what's equally important as stress is rest. Stress plus rest equals growth. And I think a lot of times football coaches are stress plus stress plus stress plus stress.
Yeah.
Because we're scared. We're scared to not do something.
I love that. Stress plus rest equals growth.
Stress plus rest equals growth. And that's, there's no way to, this is, and I kind of hate giving, gray advice, but the job of a head coach, I think the critical skill you got to develop is perspective. And the only way to do it is to just, you got to surround yourself with a lot of different thoughts and people and read, but you got to be so plugged into your team. And you got to know when it's time to push and pull, get on them, pull back, and then looking with the end in mind and working it backwards and then guiding through the season. Like, where are these points where we can pull back? When do we have to push the gas? And every season's different.
Yeah.
But I think, from that 16 season and then having an opportunity to bring it to a very different, there was a very difference in what was before and what we were. And very careful to say one is not better than the other. They're just different.
Yeah.
But I think because of the way we communicated, the way that we truly, truly worked to align to the things that we said, these players kind of bought into it. They bought into it quickly. And then it gave us a chance to really see the plan unfold. And it's just been awesome to see it continue to grow and build. And credit to Coach Stromie and Coach Reeves and the rest of the staff and the community and just how much they've gotten behind this program. It's really cool.
No, it's great, and again, like the coaches, that what we're trying to do here is trying to show you examples of leadership, trying to show you what it takes to build winning programs, and leaders come in all different styles. What I love about meeting you in this conversation is that you've demonstrated you don't have to be the most demonstrative person. You don't have to get there and just yell. You don't have to get there and just scream. You have a very unique style, but you are a tremendous coach. You're a tremendous leader. It's been a lot of fun getting to spend this hour talking with you, and appreciate you making the time for us. Good luck in your state championship run. I know you've got I think you got a bye week this week, but then you're gearing up for some tough games. You got our support, so go bring it home for us.
Hopefully we make it happen. Appreciate you.
All right.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Dude, that went good.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Coaches, we'll see you next time. Thank you.